Okay, we're live.
Okay, terrific. Well, thank you so much for. Was it you, Michelle, that made this possible? Were you the one who figured this out, or was it you, Aline?
Oh, it was not me.
It was not. It was. Well, it definitely wasn't me. I'm not sure what I was. I don't know what I was doing. I still don't. I still don't understand what went wrong. So, anyway, I don't know. Luckily, Michelle is a tech whiz, I guess.
No, not at all. I'm just lucky.
All right, sounds good. Trial and error. Well, let's. We've been starting with a prayer, so let's go ahead and do that if we can. Is there anyone who feels so moved?
I'll go ahead and give it to us.
All right, thanks, Michelle.
Our most kind Heavenly Father, thank you so very much for the opportunity to come together and for us being able to overcome our technical difficulties to make this class possible. We ask that you watch over Ashley and her family as they deal with the loss of their grandmother, and that your blessings be bestowed upon them. We ask that your Spirit be with us this evening, that we may be able to efficiently and effectively discuss the materials before us, and that we might have an understanding of how to apply them to our problems and our caseload in front of us. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Okay, thank you. All right, did everyone get to do? Did you both get to do the reading this week? Did you both you read the follow-up to the employment vignettes from last week, and then the sexual harassment articles?
Yep.
Great. How are we doing with the doohickeys problem?
Well, I've gotten material from Aline.
Okay.
Aline, am I saying your name right, by the way?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
It's Aline.
Aline?
Aline?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Perfect. Thank you. So I haven't received anything from you yet, Dan. I don't know if you've had a chance to put it in.
No, I'm about done. My wife has young women tonight, and I just barely got back into town. So I'm almost done, and I'll get it to you very shortly.
Okay. Yeah, not a problem. And then I'm just waiting for Ashley, but I know hers might be a little bit late.
Now we submit this every few weeks.
Yeah.
But it's is it just a revision of our draft, or what is it that we submit every few weeks? Do you know?
Okay. From what I understand is that each week we pick 3 different problems as related to what those subjects are.
Right.
For those week's things. And then for each of the 3 problems that we identify, we write up 4 different solutions to each problem.
Okay, yes.
And then of those 3 problems, we need to pick which one is the most pressing, and then do a detailed analysis of what we would recommend how to solve that problem, and go into as much detail as possible.
Okay. But then in a few weeks from now, we do the same thing. We choose 3 new problems.
3 new problems, yeah, because each week we're studying something a little bit different. So, like some of those problems that you identified, Dan, I think we'll get the opportunity to address them when they come up. Like when we go over the week where we're dealing with hiring. You had made some recommendations, identified some problems with hiring issues, so we'll be able to address that problem during that week.
Okay. No, that's...
The doohickey case stays the same the entire time. We're just looking at all of the different problems and applying to what we're learning that week. Yeah, that's my understanding anyways. Aline, do you think the same way, or are we all on the same?
I think it's the same way. I think next week we have a new topic, and on that topic we pick 4 solutions. So it's almost something that we could do each week. You know, we decide our topic and we make our paragraph. That way we're not doing it all at the end of 4 weeks.
Exactly, and I think that's how it's recommended. Is technically we are supposed to be addressing the doohickey each week.
Okay.
So doing our kind of like our rough drafts, identifying our problem, and each of us picking a solution to that problem and doing a write-up on it.
Sure. Okay. All right. Well, that's good. Yeah. Again, I'm sorry I missed last week, but I should.
Yeah, okay, but the most pressing question is, did you get a moose?
We got a moose.
Yay!
We got a moose. So yeah,
That's
very
important.
very exciting. Very exciting. Anyway, yeah. Like I said, thanks for helping out with that.
Yeah,
So yeah, I'll get that. So yeah, I'll get my stuff to you soon, and let me know. Yeah, certainly let me know if there's anything else that I can do to help or whatnot.
Okay. Yeah. So what we need for tonight, I think, is Aline identified the most pressing, what she thought the most pressing problem was, and now I'm drawing a blank. I know I read it. And I can't
Sexual harassment.
The sexual harassment issue, yeah, because it could bring the entire company down if she has to file suit on that. So we need to make a determination if we agree and want to approach it on the sexual harassment aspect, or
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think it could definitely easily be the most pressing, and I think it might be one of them that would be most easily rectifiable. You know, you could definitely start handling that, where some of the other problems are going to be more long-term.
Well, right, they're like more cultural. Well, of course, this is a cultural issue as well, like a business culture, I mean. But no, you're right. You could certainly go after that one immediately. So I think you're right.
Well, then then if you have any additional thoughts on the sexual harassment, and Aline too, I think you put a little bit in there, but if you have a chance to, maybe do some research cases or
yeah, I can add some more stuff to it. I was just being basic.
Yeah, no, definitely. He from the emails and that I've seen from our instructor, he's expecting this to be between 6 and 9 pages long.
Yeah, no, it's significant.
And then, Dan, were you able to find that Google document? Have you had a chance to look?
I saw the link. I haven't opened it yet. Like I said, I was herding my kids earlier, but I'll take a look at it.
Just make sure you can get in. Just type something in there with your name so I know you got into it. Because what I'll do after everybody sends me everything, I'll kind of put it together and kind of get a rough draft and then put it into that Google document. That way all of us can see it. And then if you want to add to it or,
cool.
find any glaring mistakes, which I'm sure there will be some, writing isn't my best suit, but I'm decent at it. So, so that way it can definitely be a team effort on this.
No, that sounds good. That sounds really good. Okay, well let's. We have some discussion on this. On the sexual harassment thing that, actually, I think may help shed some light on what you were talking about, Michelle, as far as just more in depth in what we're going to try to do with that paper and everything else. Aline, will you give us just tell us what sexual harassment is? Try to define it for us.
Basically, it is. I actually have the little quote highlighted right here. Harassment is claims involving women accusing men, men accusing women, or accusations between members of the same sex because of gender or because of sex.
Great.
So.
Okay, and do you think the Miss Martinez situation constituted sexual harassment?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Sure.
What type of harassment? Like, what type of was that a? You think it was quid pro quo, or was it a hostile environment?
Well, I think right now it's hostile work environment. There was a little bit where he was actually getting physical with her, and he was like, "You can scream, but I'll deny it." And so I think that we obviously don't know yet, but I think that could turn into a quid pro quo. But right now, it just seems like it's a hostile environment to me.
Sure. What do you think, Michelle?
Yeah, I
You
would
agree with
agree
that?
100% that we have hostile work environment.
Yeah.
But we don't have enough on the quid pro quo. And the quid pro quo doesn't necessarily have to be physical touching. It has to be where the implied sexual act or the whatever the harassment is directly linked to either this or you're out of here. So there really has
Sure.
to be that implied. If you don't agree to do this, then you're fired and your
Right.
job depends on it. That's where you get the quid pro quo.
Well, and she was. I mean, she certainly. I mean, she mentioned to her, or at least in her conversation with her sister. I mean, she did. She mentioned. She mentioned she was worried about, or with her conversation later on, she mentioned, being worried about losing her job, but she certainly hasn't said yet that, that he had put it to her that way, that you need to participate or you're going to lose your job. She's certainly nervous about that. We know that the work environment is hostile because of the terrible things she's been having to endure, but it could certainly go quid pro quo also.
Yeah, I think there's enough basis there that there's a distinct possibility. We just don't know for sure. And it definitely meets the parameters for hostile work environment because it's hostile to what most people would think is hostile, plus she's taking offense to it. So it meets both of those parameters.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so we have Mr. DaCosta, and he's certainly in an unpleasant position, right? I mean, this is a lousy spot, really for him to be in. But what do you think, Michelle? What do you think he should do? I mean, he has a few options, but what do you think he ought to do?
Oh, man, I wouldn't want to be in his position.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think he's trying to do the right thing. He says he doesn't know what the company's policy is on this. So right there's a big, huge bad thing on the company. I mean,
Sure.
People should be aware of what the policy and the procedures are. So he's attempting to try to find out what they are. And of course, when you call the attorney, you sometimes get the very extreme answer. So, he can I think he has one or two options. He either takes the attorney at their face value and accept that that's company policy and that's what he needs to do, is start this internal investigation. Or he finds another avenue going to human resource or something, but now he's really even sticking his neck out even more because right now
Sure.
nobody knows who I am. So either takes what the attorney says and follows through with that, and if he's agreeing that that's what the attorney is saying is their policy, I think he's in a position where he has to contact the internal EEO organization and start the investigation, or he puts his neck on the line even, and checks out what the policy is
Goes
for
a different
himself.
route, but you think he definitely does? You think he definitely reports? He does something?
He needs to do something,
Okay.
yeah. Because the one thing I do agree with what the attorney is saying, even though he overheard it, he's now making the company liable. Someone now knows that this is going on. And if nothing is done about it, it's even worse for the company. The company owes this employee the obligation, the duty to try to fix the problem, try to fix the situation. And that's definitely part of that title. What are we, Title 7, Title 8?
Title 7, yeah.
Yeah. You know, under federal obligations, and usually under state as well, you know, you cannot have less than federal. You can go above and beyond what the federal rules are, but you have to at least meet federal minimum requirements, and that is more of a protection to your employees. You have to take it seriously and investigate them.
What do you think, Eileen? What do you think he ought to do?
I think, I don't know. I agree with Michelle. I think that he is required to do something. I think that if he calls the Equal Employment Office on his own and he's able to say, I don't have particulars, I don't have evidence, like there's nothing, like, can you give me some time, or is there somebody I can work with in the office, instead of having an outright investigation, because there's just no evidence and she's very uncomfortable. Like, if she's feeling stressed from her husband even, like, she's not gonna say anything. I
Right.
certainly wouldn't, you know.
Yeah, she was pretty concerned about that. She was pretty
Like,
pretty nervous.
She was really nervous, and there's no way, if somebody comes in to do a formal investigation and gets in her face and gets in her boss's face, she will shut down. And so I think that if he's required, if that's what his company says is what he's required to do, then he needs to do that. But he also needs to make sure that they understand that he has no evidence. I mean, all he has
Sure.
is a hearsay phone call. I mean, he doesn't even know who the actual person is. He can guess, but.
Do you think he, I mean, he's obviously, I don't remember what his exact position is, but he's definitely in administration or management or whatever. But do you think he has an obligation to try and get Ms. Martinez to participate in this?
No, I don't.
You know?
I think that, because I don't think that it's his. So I know he's a supervisor, but that's what human resources is for. So I think that he didn't call human resources, he called the lawyer.
He called the lawyer.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, so if he calls his human resources manager and you know, just lets them know, then that human resource manager can handle the employee and the policies and the lawyers, and she can be that go-to to figure out the investigation and keep the employees calm and still maintain a solid work environment.
Yeah, sorry, Eileen.
No, that's okay. I mean, it's his job and he's required to say something, but as a supervisor, it's also his job to pass that off to the right people.
Right. Absolutely.
So,
And I agree with Eileen that human resource was the better choice, is a better choice than going straight on his own to the in-house counsel. He should have
Well,
started.
it's interesting because that sort of, I mean, at first glance, it sort of seems like there are two options. There, he can either report it or he can keep quiet. But that sort of hidden door number 3, that like perhaps going to someone else and at least making someone else aware of the situation and getting some advice and like you were saying, just talk to HR and see what it is and get from the professionals who handle this type of thing all the time. I think that's a really great option, actually. I think that sort of covers all of his definitely takes care of his responsibility, I think, in that.
yeah.
And he hopefully he can get some advice, and that will certainly help out.
Well, I also think that there's the confidentiality part of that too, and if he goes through HR, he maintains confidentiality. You know, his involvement doesn't go anywhere else, and her involvement doesn't go anywhere else until that they're able to actually pull this all out and see what's really happening. So
Sure.
just kind of keeps everybody safer.
Yeah, well, it's such a tricky situation because he at least feels like he knows who the harasser is, but she hasn't identified him by name. He like suggested someone or whatever, but yeah, it's a tricky situation. It really is. He's in a tough spot, I think. But I think your solution, ladies, was a really good one. So we're supposed to. I don't know if you guys read through the discussion leader preparation, but so we're supposed to sort of come up with a policy, with a harassment policy and procedures. And this Michelle, I think will help. I think this exercise, talking through it, and sort of developing our own policy, or what is really important to go into a policy. I think this will certainly help out with our doohickeys, harassment.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Portion, definitely. So here's what the instructions say. So everyone's going to get a different role. So we have four roles to play. Michelle, why don't you be the potential victim of harassment? Aline, why don't you be the bystander? And I, unfortunately, will be the accused harasser. and as such, so think about your, you have that assigned role, and think about what would be important for you in that role, what you would want to see in a policy. So if your organization was developing a policy, from your point of view, what would you want those policies and procedures to be? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Aline, what do you? Yeah, as a bystander, what do you think would be important to see in that sexual harassment policy?
I think that what I would like to see is a very specific, complaint procedure. Like, if I see something, I know exactly who I'm supposed to talk to. And it doesn't get escalated above that from me. So if I see something, I know that I'm supposed to go talk to my manager or the HR manager or whoever it is, and that that I have a guarantee that I will not be, my name won't be dragged through with this. It won't.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
So not only a specific procedure, but also certainly a well-known procedure.
Right.
I mean, because
I think I would also want to be. I would almost want a reward system, because people don't want to do. People don't want to say that. But,
interesting, right?
But we should be required to speak up.
Well, it's such a taboo topic.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember I was actually at a company where there was an investigation going on, and they called me as a bystander and just said, "Oh, so what do you think about this? There's an investigation going on," and it was really awkward.
Yeah.
It was really strange to sort of stand as a judge of someone's character, and of course you have all these implications of what's going to happen if this person, if I tell them one thing, they may get fired, or if I tell them another thing,
yeah,
it's awkward. So I think you're right. Maybe a requirement. First of all, I think is probably see something, say something, and then I actually liked your idea of some sort of incentive.
Yeah. Well, I remember in one of my old companies, it was a loss prevention incentive. If you see something, if you have a tip and that person gets arrested or whatever, then you get a reward. So, using it in the same sense that if something happens because of the tip that you gave, even though it's uncomfortable and painful, we're going to reward you for that because you're looking out for the company. You're looking out for the individual.
Sure. What do you think, Michelle? What do you think is important to have be a part of this policy as as the potential victim?
Oh, I think that clear set procedures and knowing that you can come in and place, your complaints, perhaps even the same as a bystander, confidentially, because
Yeah.
a person being harassed is automatically going to be fearful for their job. And,
Right.
Sometimes they can be handled without too much coming out in light, depending on the severity of the case. Sometimes it can be handled really quickly with just a simple reprimand. And the person who is doing the offensive act doesn't necessarily need to know where the complaint originated from.
Sure.
Point an example, attorney firm too. So, and an employer attorney firm. So, hostile work environment was always a touchy subject in there, and everyone was always on their toes for it. And I was a secretary, and we had a courier, and the courier used to come up, and when he would talk to you, he'd put his hand on your shoulder or something. And he was just one of those kind of touchy-feely guys.
Sure, yeah.
But never in an inappropriate manner. Well, one of the things for hostile work environment is I didn't have a claim because it didn't offend me. He wasn't touching me in any inappropriate area. However, the secretary next to me was offended by it, and it did make her feel uncomfortable. Therefore, she had a hostile work environment claim. And so it was just a simple, matter of HR brought the courier in, and I'm sure talked to him, brought me in, talked to me. But at the time, we didn't know who had made the complaint. It was just brought up, hey, this can be a form of, and we need to be aware of this, and blah, 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 blah. So set procedures, knowing that it can be kept confidential for as long as possible. I think it needs to have clear-cut parameters on what your investigation is going to be, what corrections are going to be taking. You need to kind of have it built in. These cases get a reprimand, or these cases get demotion, or this level get escalated to here. I think you need to kind of have guidelines set in place as to how it's going to be handled and how it's going to be approached.
Several of those things actually go into what me as the potential harasser, several of those things I would like to see, from my perspective, would definitely like to see definitions, of course there's, some, like you were saying, Michelle, some of that harassment is going to be subjective because, to one person it's one thing, and to, another person it's something else. However, there's definitely, a line that can be drawn, whether it's, whatever it is, however you want to draw that line. I think there is. I thought the language of some of the law that we were reading about was interesting about any reasonable person basically that would recognize this as harassment. Where, like you were saying, Michelle, a reasonable person may not see an arm on the shoulder or a something like that as that could really go either way. But you definitely get to a point where any reasonable person would see certain things as abuse. So definitely definitions, and like you were saying, Aline, like having them be well known. I think training, and I don't know. I'm sure you've seen like posters and that kind of that kind of thing. But like definitely making it so there's no excuse, that what it is and what's going on. Confidentiality is obviously really important for the potential harasser also, especially because we're innocent until proven guilty, right? And it'd be a real bummer for there to be an just because there's an investigation, started or launched, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's anything that there's anything going on. I mean, of course, there may be or there may not, but yeah, as a perpetrator, I would want to make sure that that confidentiality was of the highest priority, and at least until the investigation was closed. I mean, if the investigation was open and then shut, and I was totally innocent, didn't do anything wrong, it'd be so lousy to have everyone know what was being investigated, and that I was being investigated, and all of those other things. The last point I would want to make as a potential harasser is I don't believe in zero tolerance policies. I think zero tolerance. A lot of people or a lot of organizations will place a zero tolerance policy for any number of things. Whether it's a lot of schools, or zero tolerance when it comes to violence, or whatever it is. But I think zero tolerance policies take our brains away from us. We're not allowed to think anymore. And every situation is not is definitely not the same. And if you have like you were saying, Michelle, where you have a case of maybe someone perceives something as harassment and the other one does not, but under the zero tolerance policy, I get smacked down anyway. I think it's just really important for people to be in charge, rather than, I mean, it's good to be guided by policy, but when it comes down to it, to be able to have people, be reasonable and be logical, and be able to come to an appropriate conclusion, as opposed to be to have everything dictated by a strict policy or something like that. So anyway, anything else did y'all think of anything else while other people were talking?
So Dan, just on that zero tolerance policy, how do you keep that from becoming, like, if it's top brass that's doing the harassment, if you don't have a firm enough, let's just use the term zero tolerance, when one person has so much higher power in the company over another person, how do you keep it from becoming where they're exempt from it and can do anything they want because they're a little higher up?
Sure. Yeah. Well, so I would be okay with saying that, what is the in-house group called, the equal
EEOC.
EEO.
EEOC is the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. It's a federal.
Yeah, that's the federal thing. The
federal,
EEO.
I think it was just EEO for their
Okay.
in-house thing.
So I could get on board if the EEO decided we are going to investigate any claim. I could definitely get on board with that. What I wouldn't be able to get on board with is saying, like, we have a zero tolerance policy. Anyone who is found guilty of sexual harassment will be terminated immediately. Because, like you were saying, there is so much subjectivity, and I mean, I think these things should be taken seriously. I think they should be investigated, and I'm not saying that if you have someone who's a repeat offender, that he should be able to maintain his job. All I'm saying is that because these things are subjective, I think as far as like punishment, I think you would need to have, if there's a zero tolerance policy, and that means that every claim is investigated, that would be great. That seems really great. But as far as punishment, or like demotion, or any of those things, I really think you need a human element.
No, and I would agree with that. Zero tolerance for investigations, definitely they happen. But then, yeah, depending on the circumstances, would depend on the appropriate level of reprimand.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I can agree with that.
Yeah, no, definitely, definitely. Um, okay, so did you guys read ahead? Do you know what happened with the case?
I peeked.
I did too.
Oh, man, I was waiting for this big reveal. That was going to be like my shining moment. It was going to be
You can
incredible.
still have it. You can still have it.
Yep.
Um, Man, no, it's really so anticlimactic. I was like, we were building toward this. Ah, okay. Well, what
Doing
do you?
such a good job, Dan. I'm sorry we burst your bubble.
No, that's fine. So, what did you? Yeah, what do you think? How sneaky is that attorney with caller ID?
I think it's typical. I'm sorry. I'm not judging lawyers. I'm just saying she did her job.
Sure.
Like that was her job and she did it. She's a lawyer. She's concerned about, the legalities of what happens to the company and she did her job. But again, like not cool. Like if she had handled it in a different way, in a more personable way, it would have ended up different.
I
See,
mean,
Lean, I think right there is where you just nailed it. She's doing her job. That's what in-house counsel is for. Their top priority is the company. It's not on necessarily individual humans, and that's where the HR element comes into. HR has, they're to work with your employees and to work. They're managing the human element of the company within the parameters of still what's best for the company, but yeah, they can handle it in a much softer approach, if that makes sense.
definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, to be, in defense of the attorney, I mean, hindsight is 2020. I mean, you would, I don't know. She probably, I'm sure that her intentions were, okay, I'm going to do my job, and we're going to protect the company, and I'm going to help get this lady out of this terrible situation, and, she probably had no earthly idea that things were going to go south with her husband, and that DeCoste was going to, that it was just going to cause so much strife and cause all these issues. I mean, how would you know? But I think you're absolutely right. I think both of you are right that you could probably have avoided a lot of that eventual heartache and real issues just by handling it a little bit differently.
Well, she could have also gone back to DaCosta too. Like it was his responsibility and she put it on his shoulders, but because she was sneaky, she went around him. You know what I mean? Like that could have been another choice for her too, was to trust the employee, the manager, that brought it to her.
Yeah, no, and I think there is a lot of blame to be placed on a lot of different people. Like was pointed out, I think by you, Michelle, early on, that the company didn't. I mean, DaCosta didn't even know what to do. He wasn't even sure, the proper channels or how to handle that. And I'm sure, a company that size, certainly they had, procedures in place and policy.
Well,
They
had just merged with another company, so it's not like even the old company standards still applied, but I mean, he was so afraid that he was going to lose his job with the merger that, I mean, was he brave enough to call the company that had bought him out to find out what they wanted to do and how they wanted to handle it?
No, it's true. You get concerned about being, you merge a company and you get concerned about being being marked as a troublemaker, or as a I don't know, someone who's stirring the pot or something like that, and yeah, you could, like I said, I don't envy his position at all. I mean, he was put in a really tough spot, and
he was definitely between the rock and the hard place on this.
It's really unfortunate. It's really unfortunate that it worked that way. But I think the policy that we discussed, I think it would have helped him a lot. I think it would have certainly been more beneficial to him to know. He would have known the policy, and like we were talking, it would have been confidential, and this Martinez would have been talked to gently, and if she wanted to let that out, then that could be let out, and if not, her husband may not have ever have found out, and I mean, a lot of the things that we talked about, I think would have really helped this situation.
Yeah, I agree.
So nice work, you guys. I think you're all cut out to be in HR and solve the world's problems.
No thanks.
No thanks. Okay. Anything else? Any final thoughts?
Can't think of any on this end.
Yeah, that's fine. I think we covered a lot of good stuff. So, what do you think? What is the Aline and then Michelle? What did you learn from this case? What is the most important thing you learned from the case?
I think that I learned that it's so much more than just policies and procedures. It's, I think that we work in companies and we're all about the company, but when we take care of the people, we're actually taking care of the company. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of a win-win when you're taking care of people. And I think that there's always more than one path to take.
Definitely, yeah. What about you, Michelle? What did you learn from this?
Yeah, there's definitely always that human element to take into consideration. You see on this that, you almost kind of feel like the bad guy won for me, which can happen. And, things need to be appropriately handled. And sometimes it does go bad. And hopefully, things can be done to prevent that. I think this could have definitely have been handled differently, from a human resource management position where the human element could have been looked at more greatly, taken under consideration, whatever you want to term it. But it is such a convoluted, messy thing to handle. As much as the state laws and Title VII, try to give good parameters, I think it's constantly changing. And there is such check and balance and weighing on things that it's hard to get the right solution all the time.
Yeah, no, that's true. I would say probably I've worked at a whole bunch of different companies, and every time we do you have the mandatory training, and it's, you go through it, and it's so, just painful to go. You have to listen to the HR just yak, and they go on and on and on. And it seems just so obvious or common sense or whatever. But I think I don't know. I think this example just shows that it's not always, it's not always simple, and it's not always easy, and that if some of that training, or at least some of the advice that's given, would have been taken to, would have been followed, then I don't think this would have gotten nearly as messy as it actually did. So anyway, all right.
Yeah. Hey, before you guys go, I have a question for you. In regards to sexual harassment, what are you guys' thoughts on? Do you only do that training when a situation has been triggered, or do you think it should be ongoing training that happens periodically?
I think it needs to happen every year. Like, I know that there's yearly training, that people get year after year. Things like that don't really come up a whole lot, so if you don't get that reminder, you're gonna forget.
Yeah, I think I think it'd probably actually be both of those options. I think, I think that when, like you were saying, Aline, an annual type refresher course, or what, I mean, certainly upon hire, as part of orientation, you should probably do something, outline the policies so that everyone knows, no matter what. You can't ever say that you didn't know. But then, have some type of annual refresher that would update you on any, changes in the law or changes in company policy or whatever. But then, I mean, if there is a situation, I don't think it would be a bad idea to, again, not necessarily air it all out and let everyone know exactly, who it was and what happened and what, but just a reminder and maybe just some clarification, or I don't know. You just want to prevent, if you can do a little bit of training and prevent having to deal with this after a big issue has occurred, that's so much better. I mean, it's so much better to just catch it before it, to prevent the situation from happening than instead of having to deal with it.
And get a really big poster on the wall that outlines the steps.
Yes. Big poster.
Right next to the insurance requirements, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
Break room reading material, yes.
Okay. All right. Well, sounds good. We'll let's get our doohickeys deal.
Okay, we'll get that doohickey.
Yeah.
I'll get it out to you guys as soon as I can. And then Aline, you're good for being discussion leader next week still?
Yeah, if we can figure out this Google thing.
So set up your YouTube account.
Okay.
And link it with your Google Plus account. Okay? And then go to Hangouts.
On air.
Not video. Hangouts on air is what you want to launch.
Okay.
Yeah. And don't be surprised if it doesn't work, because mine didn't work.
All right.
Well, I think I'm 3 for 3, so if you can't get it to launch, I'll be happy to.
I'm going to test run it. I will figure this out.
Yeah.
You'll get it.
Yeah.
Ashley was able to get it figured out the second time, so I have full faith in you.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Well, I'm going to figure it out.
All right. Sounds good. Y'all have a good night.
Thanks. See ya.
Talk to you later.
Guys.